Hey y'all, it is Nikki. Welcome back to the channel. So the other day I saw this fun little video kind of poking fun at fiction and some of the things in fiction that really aren't very realistic, but we all just kind of roll with. Like two people who are totally not compatible ending up together in these really implausible relationships, or a guy and a girl having a deep platonic relationship but never considering each other romantically, or even just the way that characters in stories, books, movies, shows, whatever, can express their feelings so much better than the average person can express their feelings. I thought it was supposed to be funny, so I was watching it going like, haha, oh, so true. But not until I got to the end did I realize that the creator was actually trying to make a serious point about what we do as writers and about how we need to be constantly checking ourselves to make sure that what we're writing retains that kind of real feel for the readers. Because it's true, a story needs that element of relatability for readers to feel like something resonates with them, something that they can grab onto. Valid points. However, I don't like to take hard stances on writing related things because it's so subjective. Different writers like different things, different readers like different things. But the more I thought about these examples in particular, a lot of them kind of hit me hard because it was like, oh, but I like those tropes. Am I wrong to like those tropes? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I think I might just disagree. And let me try and unpack that for you a little bit. So first example, characters who are highly improbable ending up together. That happens a lot in not just books, but shows, movies. I was exposed to the character of Sheldon Cooper, for example, at work. The Big Bang Theory is often playing at work, and you really don't have to see very much of that show to know or sense that in real life, people probably wouldn't put up with Sheldon Cooper the way they put up with him in the show. But that said, he is the beating heart of that story. Without him, there would be no story. So he's necessary, and he brings so much to the group, even though in real life, that group of people and his girlfriend probably wouldn't be able to put up with him. Another example, Hermione and Ron. I know that's a bit of a hot topic, but I'm not talking about the books. I'm talking purely about the movies. Every time I watch the movies, I'm just struck by how unlikely their relationship is and how it just makes way more sense for Hermione to have chosen Harry. They're so much more compatible. They understand each other's needs so intuitively. They're adorable together. Ron is just kind of a dork. He's just there. So that one does bug me because it feels unrealistic and that pulls me out of the story. However, it's not impossible for unlikely people to end up together. It does happen, and who am I to say that it never happens? Also, it brings something great to stories. It adds flavor, it adds interest, it's adorable, it generates conflict, which, as we all know, is the thing that drives great plots. I mean, you want to talk about conflict, just look at Hermione and Ron. That's one of the areas where stories kind of divagate from real life. Stories are not real life, like it or not. We read stories to get something that is real, but also not real, something that's a little bit different. So yes, if you want to add an implausible couple to your story, I don't see a problem with that. Other example is characters who are in platonic relationships, guys and girls who do not think of each other romantically at all. The thought never crosses their mind. Generally speaking, obviously there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, that is just not the way that young hormonal brains work. I remember a while ago I did a video about my frustrations with the Wheel of Time series, and there are a lot of them. I spent 85% of that series honestly just being in a state of wrath because there were so many things about those books that just filled me with rage. The ending saved it, but barely, but I digress. I was frustrated with the fact that when a female character walked onto the page for the first time, she was often described first and foremost by how she looked, how pretty she was, what she was wearing, and how much of her body was exposed by what she was wearing, and it just infuriated me. It was like, are you kidding me? Just, made me so mad. It still does, as you can tell. However, someone made the really valid point that it is kind of just realistic. Guys do it to girls, girls do it to guys. It's kind of just the way our brains work. And if it's realistic, it's realistic. So we should just roll with it. This is one area where I actually have really strong feelings, and I do very strongly disagree, because I think there is a degree to which stories should not only reflect the world just as it is, but should reflect the world as we wish it was, or as it should be. Sure, it might be true that attractiveness is one of the first things that people assess when they see a new person, but maybe that's partially a result of our very hypersexualized and objectifying culture, and maybe that's something we should be trying to lean out of instead of something that we reinforce. In cases where you have characters who don't see each other romantically, guys and girls, and it's purely platonic. As much as it's unrealistic, I love that trope. I think it's the dream, honestly. I would love it if we could all just be friends without everything being, romanticized or sexualized, especially in a culture where it's becoming super, super difficult to write any kind of meaningful friendship without it being kind of read into in a romantic way, whether you want it to be or not. It's a refreshing trope to me. I like this platonic trope, and I would never not do it just because it's like, quote unquote, not realistic. As to the whole issue of characters being able to express themselves better in stories than they do in real life, it's actually something I just learned about in my fiction course from my prof in my textbook, and we were talking specifically about dialogue and how dialogue is really all about capturing realism, not necessarily being hyper-realistic. If we were all hyper-realistic with our dialogue, it would be so bad. Like, there would be so many pauses and ums and uhs, and we'd take forever to get to the point, and you'd have to wade through all this small talk, because that's how we kind of talk in real life. Dialogue in stories is supposed to be a little more streamlined than that. Characters are probably more effective at communicating what they're feeling in general, or if they're not, that's very intentional, and we get insight into what's going on in them through the gaps in what they say. The point is, though, it's more efficient, it's more effective, it packs more punch. Characters will still feel real, and you still want to capture that realism so that the reader will buy it, but not let it become so realistic that it's just froth, that it's nothing, that it's not driving the story in some way. I look forward to dialogue scenes because that's when progress gets made in the story. That's where character progress and relationship progress happens, and I always get so excited for that. So I won't begrudge fictional characters their articulateness, I'll just enjoy it and aspire to it. These, of course, are all just my musings on these things. Different writers like different things, different readers like different things, we're all bugged by different things. It was just fun for me to think about these tropes critically and try and figure out, like, hang on, how do I feel about these and why? Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.